Knicks fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of Fireside Knicks with your host, Dylan Backer. And today I want to talk about a Knicks trade target that I don't know if it's exactly realistic anymore, but it's a dream target. It's one that's been very popular in Knicks fan circles and Knicks Twitter and all that stuff. So I want to discuss Walker Kessler today. The Utah Jazz big man, the promising center, the shot blocker, an excellent rebounder that he is. He continues to grow each and every season. And really, I think he's really like the perfect fit for the New York Knicks, but at the same time, I don't know how realistic it is to acquire him. And the reason I'm going to sit here and talk about it today is because we know the Knicks need some depth, right? We know they need center depth, especially in the front court. Mitchell Robinson has yet to play a game this season, and apparently, too, there is some concern that he might not even play at all this season, even though it seems like pretty likely that he might return around like February and return to practice later this month, which is of course a good sign, and the Knicks need him more than anything else right now. But regardless of that, we all know his injury problems. We know he struggles to stay on the court and all that stuff. So really, I think if the Knicks go out of their way to add in the front court, add a center, or add a wing, add a taller player that can provide an impact everywhere and give the front court guys some rest, because really there is no insurance for Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, or Karl Anthony Towns. There's no insurance behind those guys. You have plenty of guards on the roster. You have Brunson, McBride, Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet's still here, of course. You have guards, but we have nothing in the front court outside of Towns and Precious Achiuwa. Jericho Sims is out of the rotation, and the Knicks are looking to trade him because of how poor he was playing this season. So really, the Knicks just need some insurance in the front court, and I think Walker Kessler would be a phenomenal fit. Now, this is a guy that I mentioned before we made the Karl Anthony Towns trade that he would be the perfect fit for replacing Mitchell Robinson. This was, of course, assuming Randall was still going to be on the team. Of course, he is no longer with the team, and we have Karl Anthony Towns instead. So bringing in Kessler is not exactly a must-need, if that makes sense, because we do have an all-star starting center, but at the same time, if you acquire Walker Kessler, you can have him start at the 5 and move Karl Anthony Towns to the 4, which would allow Josh Hart to move back to the bench, give the bench some depth in that way. So there's ways you can do this, but at the same time, too, there is a hefty asking price for Walker Kessler, and I'll explain the reason why before I go into that. Walker Kessler is obviously a very young player. This is only his third NBA season, and he's already established himself as one of the league's premier shot blockers, right? He's currently averaging 2.5 blocks per game. That is third in the NBA behind Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama. He's been one of the league's top shot blockers over the last 3 seasons. I believe only he and Brook Lopez have around the same amount of blocks per game since the 2022 season. So he's really been a phenomenal player for the Jazz. Of course, the Jazz have not done a whole lot of winning, though, so they're going to look to kind of ship off some of their higher value players to get some draft capital in return. Now, Danny Ainge and the Jazz, we all know they have big asking prices, right? Look at Donovan Mitchell, for example. They wanted a boatload of picks for Donovan Mitchell. It's why the Knicks did not go out of their way to trade for him. The Cavaliers took that risk instead, and it's paid off for the Cavaliers so far. Of course, the Cavaliers haven't had playoff success, but we're seeing how well they're playing right now, so clearly it's working in some way. But other than that, for Walker Kessler's sake here, the Jazz want several first-round picks, or at least multiple first-round picks, and a bunch of second-round picks for him. Now, is that price worth it? That is kind of 50-50 in my opinion, because really, I think he is that impactful of a player. I think he brings a great interior presence. He's the guy who can score a little bit too. He's averaging over 10 points per game this season, and he's averaging 11.5 rebounds. So this is a guy who is really one of the better interior players in the entire NBA. So really, when you acquire a guy like that, that's a huge value pick right there, and especially given how young he is as well. It's one of the better players in the league. Really, you'd be adding right here, but you really don't know if you want to trade like 5 or 4 second-round picks for him, because there is a mock trade going around that was written by Fadeaway World's Eddie Bitar, who devised some mock trades in the past, and we've commented on them before. His mock trade here was getting Walker Kessler for Tyler Kolek, a first-round pick, and 4 second-round picks. That is 5 total draft picks and a very young player in Kolek that we are giving up for Walker Kessler. Now, of course, it is just a mock trade. It's anything finalized, and I don't think the Knicks are going to end up doing a trade like that. I don't even think the Knicks are going to trade for Walker Kessler at all. I think he's going to go to a different team that has more assets to move, and it will meet it at a more favorable price, because it seems like the Knicks and Jazz can never kind of make ends meet when it comes to these types of situations, because the Jazz have a bunch of young players and a bunch of intriguing players that I think the Knicks should look after in the trade market. I mentioned yesterday there's Colin Sexton in there. Jordan Clarkson. Those are a couple intriguing players right there. I'm not the biggest fan of Clarkson, but still, I mean, those are intriguing pieces that the Knicks need to at least give an eye at, right? Walker Kessler, of course, is someone that I think a lot of teams are going to be bidding for during this trade deadline. So I don't think the Knicks would be alone in this. There's going to be a lot of competition, especially since he'll probably, if he does end up actually being seriously available in the market, he's going to be one of the more sought after big men, just because of how impactful he is and how young he is, and he's durable too. He stays on the court, which is something Mitchell Robinson does not do. Mitchell Robinson has been injured not only this season, but he missed a lot of last season, and he's had other lower leg injuries in the past as well. So really, you want to get someone that's durable, and Walker Kessler is perfectly durable. And there, like I said before in the opening, there's a lot of flexibility you have if you were to acquire a guy like Kessler, because you can put him at the 5, move Towns to the 4. You could also theoretically have Kessler come off the bench, even though I think he's at the stage now where he doesn't need to be coming off the bench because he's a little too good of a player to be coming off the bench. But still, you could theoretically do that. You could have him come off the bench behind Towns, and there's your backup center right there. Not only do you have a backup center, but you probably have the best backup center in the entire league now. So it would really be something that to really kind of look at. And I don't know but again, I don't know how realistic it is because, there's been these Walker Kessler talks for so long now. Oh, the Knicks should go get Walker Kessler this, and I've even mentioned him before. So I'm kind of, victim to that. I'm a little guilty on that. But still, I just don't know if it's going to happen. I mentioned this yesterday, and I'll say it again. If the Knicks make a trade at this trade deadline, I don't think it's going to be an eye-popping blockbuster move, such as getting Walker Kessler, because I think that would be kind of I don't want to use the term blockbuster for Walker Kessler because he's not a superstar, but he's a very good player. So I think it would be something close to that, right? I don't think the Knicks are going to even reach that type of level, though. They made 2 blockbuster trades in the summer to go get Mikal Bridges and Towns, so I don't see them personally making a huge another swing move for Walker Kessler, especially because I don't think the Knicks want to give up basically all of their picks and basically completely tank out their future and just hope that this current core can win them a championship. Because, I mean, by all means, this current core is capable of doing anything. I mean, I think this team is very good despite their struggles this season. I think they're still a very good team and they have the potential to be a finals team. I know there's all that contender talk going around, but I do think that when they really get themselves going, when they get their chemistry worked out, when they get more games in, when they get, face some more adversity and kind of see how they respond to it, I think they're going to be an amazing team. I think they have the potential to be a finals team. I think they can be a finals team this season. But I also will acknowledge that this roster is incomplete. It's not a fully finished product. I don't think that the way the roster is devised right now, you're exactly going to go very far. And the reason I only say that is because while the starting 5 is phenomenal, there's no depth behind them. And I know in the playoffs you shrink your rotations to about 7 or 8 guys, and this team is perfectly built for that. But during the regular season, you're going to get these guys tired. You're putting injury risk on these starters as well. As I mentioned yesterday, there's a lot of different flaws with this team. And of course, the three-point defense has been a massive problem this season, and so has the interior defense to a degree. The interior defense has gotten better over recent weeks, but the perimeter defense is still terrible, and the interior defense without Robinson has not been the best. Kessler would solve that problem immediately, and he would solve the rebounding issue too, because as much as weird as it sounds, considering how well of rebounding Towns and Josh Hart have been this season, the Knicks are actually not one of the better rebounding teams in the league. They're towards the bottom. So Kessler would solve that. He'd give him another rebounder, an exceptional one at that. Gives him another 7-footer because they lack a lot of size in the second unit and just overall. So he would be an impactful player. But again, I just don't think it's realistic because of the asking price and really just where the Knicks have been going the past season or so in the offseason. I don't think they're going to end up making a third blockbuster trade where they're going to shell out a bunch of assets for him. Now don't get me wrong, if you can pull off a trade for Walker Kessler without giving up too much draft capital or any important rotation pieces, phenomenal. We've seen Leon Rose do this kind of stuff in the past where he kind of gets the best price for himself and for his team out of these trades. Obviously Mikal Bridges was quite a bit of an overpay. I think we can all agree on that, but he got Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle and DiVincenzo. While yes, you didn't want to part away with DiVincenzo, we see how poor he's been playing this season, so it looks like that trade has worked out for him. The Mikal Bridges trade's kind of to be determined, but I do think it will end up being a very good trade, even despite giving up all those first-round picks. It's not like the Knicks play their rookies anyway. As I mentioned yesterday, it's not going to be any different if they did play their rookies, so you need to look in the market. And Walker Kessler is a guy you have to keep your eye on. He is. But At the same time, I think you also need to have plan Bs and plan Cs. You need to pivot towards looking at some of the other guys. As I mentioned yesterday, you got guys like Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Alec Burks. The Chicago Bulls have a bunch of intriguing pieces like Torrey Craig. Nikola Vucevic could even be available. There's a lot of different options out there. I think the Knicks need to really be active, though, in the trade market. I don't think they're going to exactly do anything mind-blowing, as I mentioned yesterday, but I think they need to do something. If they go through this trade deadline without making a single move, I think that's kind of a whiff. I think that's a bit of a failure. I think you need to do something because, as I mentioned earlier, this is an incomplete team. It's a great team, but it's not a finished product. I don't really have much else to say, though. I am intrigued to see what they're going to do about Walker Kessler. I think he's a great player, and I think if he came to the Knicks, he would be a perfect fit just because of all the rim protection he provides, the size he has. He's able to score a little bit, too. He's obviously not a high-level scorer, but he's someone that can give you a good 10 points per game or something like that, which is honestly all I need out of, another backup center or something like that. That's all I need. I don't need him to be averaging 20 points per game. So really, I think that's something we just need to monitor moving forward. Again, I don't think it's exactly something that's definitely going to happen. I think it's kind of a long shot, and it's a dream target, if you will. I don't think they're exactly going to pull off the trade for Kessler, but who knows? We've seen this team do crazy things in the past, and maybe they'll end up pulling off the trade, and then they have themselves a loaded roster where they can really make a deep run. That would be something, but I think just going to have to see what happens. I don't have much else to say, though, so I do think this is a good place to wrap it up. We really hope you guys enjoyed this video today, guys. Or, let us know what you think about Walker Kessler and all that stuff I just mentioned in the comment section below, because they need some help. They need bench help, and I think that some of the guys I've mentioned are going to be impactful for that if they were to make a move for them. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and, of course, this YouTube page that you were watching the video on. You can follow my personal Twitter account. It's right there on the screen, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.